A handful of people are still being pulled from the rubble alive in Turkey and Syria as the death toll passes 40,000. Euronews correspondent Annalise Borges is on the ground. Human Rights Watch has warned that the slow humanitarian response to rebel-controlled Syria after the earthquake is deadly.
The European Commission has announced a 10th round of sanctions against Russia, which this time includes Iran. The European Commissioner for Enlargement issues an apology after calling members of the European Parliament idiots.
Ten days after the earthquake in Syria and Turkey, the figures are staggering. More than 40,000 dead and around 50,000 homes destroyed in Turkey. Rescuing anyone today seems almost a miracle, as Annalise Borges tells us from Adana.
On the 10th day since two massive earthquakes struck Turkey and Syria, rescue operations are slowly turning into recovery operations with some sporadic, miraculous news. Today, a 74-year-old woman was rescued alive after 227 hours under the rubble of her collapsed building in the city of Kahramanmaraş. The Turkish government has dismissed allegations that it was struggling to coordinate rescue efforts, saying that there are still some 76 countries operating on the ground. And while those efforts are ongoing, many of the wounded are having to be transferred to other parts of Turkey for treatment. Here in the city of Adana, most hospitals are operating at capacity, and many family members are literally camping on site, waiting for their loved ones to recover. Many of them are survivors themselves, still haunted by what they went through last week.
Bulunduğumuz binanın en üst katındaydık, 9. kattaydık. Yıkıldı, onun sesler kesildi.
It took Halil Ibrahim over 20 minutes to get out of the rubble of his collapsed building in Kahramanmaraş. Then the race started to get his wife, Chidem, and child out of the rubble, which he was left to do with his own bare hands.
Uzaklarım var, artık oksijensiz ve kansız olduğu belliydi zaten. Seslenmeme cevap vermiyordu. Biz daha zor diğer şehir hastanesine götürdük. Oraya gittik. Orası anlatılmaz. Vahşetti zaten orası. Yani biz eşimi içeri aldık. Böyle bırakın masayı, sedyeyi, yatağı, yani ölülerin arasında, hastaların arasında battaniye de koyacak bir alan bulamadık bile. İtişlere kalkıştırıp bir alan oluşturduk. Oraya eşimi bıraktık.
Halil's wife went through surgery yesterday and remains in ICU. Annalise Borges in Adana, southern Turkey, for Euronews.
A week and a half after the earthquake, humanitarian aid is still virtually unreachable in this rebel-controlled town in northwestern Syria. Human Rights Watch said the slow response to regions like this after the earthquake highlights the inadequacy of the UN's cross-border aid efforts, adding that delays are deadly. The World Health Organization described the area as the zone of greatest concern.
Survivors are now facing freezing conditions without adequate shelter, heating, food, clean water, or medical care. The search and rescue phase is now coming to an end. But for WHO, the task of saving lives is only just beginning.
Aid that travels to the country can help children like these, who were hurt in the earthquake. The UN has also launched an appeal to raise nearly 374 million euros to help people in Syria in desperate need of shelter, medical care, and food over the next 3 months.
The Washington Post reported that U.S. defense planners assess that Ukrainian forces are unable to simultaneously defend Bakhmut and launch a spring counteroffensive, and have urged Ukraine to prioritize the spring counteroffensive over defending Bakhmut. Western reporting indicates that there continue to be Western concerns about Ukraine's determination to hold Bakhmut, and this is what we are focusing on today. The Institute for the Study of War continues to assess that Ukraine's decision to defend Bakhmut is likely a strategically sound effort despite its costs for Ukraine. Ukraine's defense of Bakhmut has forced the Kremlin to expand much of the Wagner Group as a force and commit high-value Russian airborne forces to sustain attritional advances. Ukrainian defense of Bakhmut has degraded significant Russian forces and will likely set favorable conditions for a future Ukrainian counteroffensive. Now, had Russian troops taken Bakhmut without significant Ukrainian resistance, they could have hoped to expand operations in ways that could have forced Ukraine to construct hasty defensive positions in less favorable terrain. Therefore, Ukraine's defense of Bakhmut and undertaking an effort to set conditions for a counteroffensive are likely complementary, not mutually exclusive activities, considering that Russian forces would have continued their offensive beyond Bakhmut had Ukraine yielded the city earlier. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said the situation in the eastern Donetsk and Luhansk regions remains extremely difficult, but Russia's prolonged involvement in the battles there reduces its capacity to fight elsewhere in Ukraine. Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head of Wagner Group, emphasized himself that Wagner is nowhere near completing its encirclement of Bakhmut due to continued Ukrainian defense of the area.
A 10th package of sanctions against Russia is on its way. The European Commission presented plans on Wednesday which, for the first time since the punitive measures began last year, include third country entities.
Iran's Revolutionary Guards have been providing Russia with Shahed drones to attack civilian infrastructure in Ukraine. Therefore, we are now adding 7 Iranian entities to our dual-use regime. They are now under complete ban to sell sensitive items to Russia.
Brussels expects this to act as a strong deterrent to companies and international traders. The European Commission would also like to see this package of sanctions approved by member states before the first anniversary of the war next week. The measures include more export bans worth over 11 billion euros. The aim is to deprive the Russian economy of critical technology and industrial goods that help it wage war. In the list of banned products are electronic and spare parts for jet engines, among others. The package also targets the Kremlin's propaganda machine.
I think
Outrage in the European Parliament after the European Commissioner for Enlargement referred to lawmakers as idiots, likely thinking his microphone was off. Olivier Vahey was facing a question and answer session in Tuesday's plenary session in Strasbourg, which centred on strengthening enlargement policy in the Western Balkans. After almost an hour and a half of debate, the Commissioner from Hungary sat down and was heard saying in Hungarian, "How many idiots are still left?" The Commissioner has since issued a statement via Twitter saying he sincerely regrets what he calls a misunderstanding around his remark during the plenary session. Before this, though, some MEPs were even calling for his resignation. Others were simply left shocked by what he said.
This perception of disrespect from a commissioner towards the representatives of the European citizens is a disgrace.
The lawmaker who spoke before the Hungarian Commissioner tried to explain why he might have reacted in the way that he did.
The fact that I questioned how can a candidate country like Serbia also have strong ties with Russia, not imposing sanctions against Russia, this was probably what provoked him.
The reaction reflects an increasingly tense relationship between the Commissioner and MEPs.
It's the stratospheric saga that's gripping the world. Almost 2 weeks ago, the US accused China of sending a spy balloon high above its territory, grabbing the attention of sci-fi geeks and Pentagon officials alike. Beijing officials admitted the object did belong to them, but claimed it was a meteorological research aircraft that had blown off course. Then, for 3 days in a row, 3 more unidentified objects were shot down over North America. But still, very little information has been revealed.
À l'heure actuelle, les États-Unis, mais aussi la Chine, la France, sans doute la Russie et quelques autres grands pays font des recherches pour essayer de développer de nouvelles armes qui sont ce qu'on appelle des planeurs hypersoniques. Et ces engins auraient une bonne partie de leur vol qui se déroulerait dans la stratosphère, sachant que la stratosphère est très très mal connue sur le plan de sa composition, sur le plan des vents qui circulent.
Could it be then an exploratory device, tasked with discovering a strategic stratosphere where any weapon of war would be very difficult to intercept?
This region of the atmosphere, it's above where aircraft fly and it's below space, and it is a region that we don't fully understand.
US officials have said that the objects have not been threatening, causing conspiracy theories to develop, some concerning UFOs. But if that were the case, would we ever learn the whole truth?
I'm just, I loved E.T., the movie, but I'm just going to leave it there.
Chelsea continued their poor run of form as they suffered a narrow 1-0 loss to Borussia Dortmund in their Champions League last 16 first leg tie. Joao Felix's teammates got off to a better start and created more chances, but were eventually undone on the counter in the 63rd minute as Karim Adeyemi scored a brilliant solo goal to pile more pressure on Chelsea coach Graham Potter.
I thought it was an even first half. We managed the game quite well, had some good opportunities to counter-attack, hit the bar. And then second half, apart from the one decisive action where we didn't do well enough, I thought we were the dominant, better team, created some good chances, and we deserved the goal. But it is what it is. We have to keep going. It's half-time. It's a tight game. We look forward to Stamford Bridge.
In the other game, Benfica produced a solid performance to outclass Club Brugge in Belgium. João Mario opened the scoring from the penalty spots before David Neres doubled the visitors' lead in the dying minutes of the game, leaving Scott Parker with the task of overturning a 2-goal deficit when the two sides meet again on the 7th of March.